So I would like to hear from you about what a person experiences, for example, when they go through an event, and how can cellular spirituality perhaps impact or create a change in a person's life after they've gone through some kind of traumatic event.
So some traumatic events could be a death, a divorce, some physical ailment that comes to the individual, the client. And sometimes people, they may have had some routine in their life, and this disease or event stops them in their tracks. They can't think what to do. The confusion comes over them. They don't know, should I get coffee? Should I go for a walk? I don't feel like doing anything. There's constant dual thought, conflict inside. The heart is in pain. The body starts to feel the pain. And the more that we're focusing on the pain, the more pain seems to grow. So there's a point where you need to feel the pain and not rush over it, because it may come out sideways. So there's a point that there needs to be some discussion, but while we're discussing what the event may be or what the person is dealing with, we can do different techniques to assist them through the pain that they're experiencing to make it just a little bit lighter. So there's deep breathing that we can do. There's certain postures that people can sit in to allow certain fluids to move within the body so that there'll be less stress. A lot of people, the first thing that happens when you have stress is that the breath goes. And people are starting to breathe from here up. And when you're only breathing from the upper diaphragm, you can actually cause an anxiety attack, which adds more to the soup that you're already dealing with. So when I'm physically with somebody, or if I'm working with them online, I can actually see some, as soon as they start talking, you can see the chest kind of go forward, and and the breath start to shift, and even me talking about it makes you feel sympathetic, and you start to do that. But if I start to tell somebody, okay, I want you to relax your shoulders, I'm going to have you take a nice deep breath, and I don't want you to use your chest. I want you, when you inhale, a lot of people actually breathe the opposite. When I tell them to inhale, they're actually using their muscles as if they're exhaling, which also will cause anxiety. So as I watch them, I try to make sure that when they inhale, they're filling the balloon very big, even to the point of holding it, because you want to increase that muscle strength. And when you exhale, you're going to bring that stomach towards your spinal column, and you're going to hold that for a little bit. And what that does is slow down the emotion, slow down your cells, and it makes it just a little bit easier to discuss what the event was, what it feels like in your body. I ask people, where does it hurt? If it's an emotional situation. Sometimes people say it's in my heart, or it's on my left side. Some people will say it's below my navel. Some people experience leg pain, because when an event happens, we're having a hard time walking through something in our life, so we start to feel leg pain. And that is an indication that perhaps we need to discuss it. We need to maybe do particular yoga moves, maybe have some energy work or actual body work done, massage to release that. As soon as you hold your breath, whatever your default is in your body, mine happens to be the left hip. So when I have an event that happens or stress that happens, the inside of my left hip will go, which is the technical term. On the inside of your hip is the iliacus, and it goes to the psoas. Now if my psoas starts to contract, that means I'm starting to lean to my left. I can't even get a full breath if I want to. And the more I lean to my left, then I pull in other friends to get contracted. So we need to work on actual physical aspects to how the pain is affecting our body. And then we talk about, or depending on how the conversation goes, sometimes I open the door to, do you feel that, is God in this scenario with you? And sometimes people feel, no, God isn't even here with me in this scenario. And then I'll say, well, let's just for a minute imagine that in this event that God is there with you. Now, what is God saying to you? When people shift and just imagine that God was there, even if they think God wasn't, something happens, something shifts where there's all of a sudden I almost see them physically sit up and feel a different blanket of love that they may have not felt before. And then maybe I would say to them, what would God say to you now in this event? Or what would God say to the other person in this event? And we, depending on how the conversation goes, depends on what the next questions will be. Again, it's not one size fits all. Everybody's events are very subjective. But the ability that I've been gifted with through many opportunities to grow is to connect with people. I can connect with all kinds of individuals. I can connect with animals in different ways. And, it's a matter of actually connecting with matter. And I don't know if I talked to you, I think we broached the subject briefly about the body having different parts and not seeing it as a one unit. And some people, let's just say for a minute, let's try this concept on for size. So say there's a genealogy for our physical body, and that comes from the people that you're physically related to. But say the soul comes from a different genealogy. The soul is a very large topic and very subjective on how people may view it, but does the soul come with your gene pool, or is it something that comes in some other way? So let's say we try that on for size, that the soul genealogy is different than your physical genealogy. And if that's the case, there has to be some peace made with that inner energy that we have with your physical being. And sometimes people feel separate. And here's a story that I can tell you and how I actualize this version of this idea of different soul genealogy and physical genealogy. One of my clients, her husband had a condition and shouldn't have lived as long as he did. He probably shouldn't have made it to 20, but he was in his 60s. And an event happened while he was on an outing with some friends, and he actually had a heart attack, but then passed away. And I don't actually know how long that went on, but one of his friends jumped into action and did CPR and brought him back. Sometimes when I've listened to people's stories about that, and I've not talked directly to him about this story, but sometimes we have expanded something in our soul and it isn't able to fit back into our vehicle that we have in our body genealogy. And so when I heard that story, it really started opening up other doors for me to question, what does that mean? How do these two work? And I don't have an answer, I just have more questions. And the opportunity here in life, our adventure here, is that we get to ask the questions and mull them over. And I don't know that there's one answer for all of this, but when I thought about it, it really made me think that there are two sets of things. And how do we merge the I am with the we? Because if you go with the concept that God is the creator and there's a co-creator, that includes the we. But when we're here, we think of I am, very singular, maybe contracted energy. It's fairly not really humble. I am. Like when I say it, I feel I am. I am woman, stuff like that. But when you start thinking and trying on these words for size, I am we, kind of an odd phrase. And I started it last year thinking about that, and the phrase may not completely work saying it that way, but what does work is this connection of the soul with the creator. And that being in that alignment, that vertical alignment, actually assists us in discernment. And by even just focusing my attention on being assimilated, having my soul be assimilated with this vehicle, this genealogy that I'm involved in, with my DNA, with my blood type, with the color of my skin, the color of my eyes, the color of my hair. I don't know that my soul is the same aspect. If I was to think about my soul, I think of rainbows and butterflies. Something girly, My Little Pony or something. I didn't get to have one of those as a kid. That came out afterwards. But, these are just some interesting concepts. It's not that we have to believe them, but to expand our mind out of this tunnel vision of what life feeds us and what we choose to accept or cages we choose to put ourselves in. And so when an event happens, it is different with each individual. And it's not that I would necessarily go down the roads that you and I have talked about, but there's a lot of different roads that I've gone down with people that they were really ready for. It's like when an event happens, it's like you've been pulled apart, put into a paper bag, shooken up and thrown back on the floor and said, okay, now put yourself back together, but do a better job of it. Because sometimes, it's like if you learn new wisdom, you can't unlearn it. When you have an event, it would be great if we could turn back the clock, but you can't. So now what do we do? So we try to find a path. Get your flashlight and let's find your path that works for you. Not a path that works for your friend or for me, but let's brainstorm together and let's decide, let you decide. Empower you to the path that is right. They say that all snowflakes are different. What beauty would we have here if we were all the same? We come here to do some particular purpose or to be love. I think really all we have to do while we're here on earth is just be an example of love. And love means different things to different people.